Everyone wants to know, how will the presidential election affect the Newport Beach real estate market?
Buying or selling a home is a huge decision for most people, and it can be a scary one at times, right? Especially if you're a first-time buyer, or if it's been a while since you've bought or sold a home. There's a lot of stress that comes in, and adding to that can be the presidential election as well. And how can that affect the market? It's kind of a scary thing for some people, right?
It's daunting, especially when you consider how polarizing the 2024 election will be. I mean, look, as much as we don't want to get political on this topic, our country is very divided on these two candidates.
Yeah. With such a high-profile election, how can one make a life-changing decision without knowing what the outcome will be? In fact, hands down, this is the biggest objection that we're receiving right now is the election year. Many buyers and sellers want to wait for the results before they make their life-changing decision. And the interesting thing is that historically, at least since the 80s, we've seen the market respond very consistently across the board. And despite this information, consumers lean on this and have a reason to wait.
Yeah, I mean, when we show you guys the graphs, you're gonna see that there's not a lot of fluctuation that happens. And so let's really unpack this.
Yeah.
First, before we get into the actual data around home sales and home prices, we wanna discuss a few facts around the election that we found online that can kind of give us an idea of how the market was affected.
Okay, let's start with historical stability. Historically, the Southern California real estate market has shown resilience and stability post-election, with no significant long-term disruptions directly attributed to the election outcomes.
Number two, short-term volatility. This is what many people are worried about. In the months leading up and immediately following an election, there may be short-term volatility in the market due to uncertainty. We are seeing that. However, this typically stabilizes once the election results are finalized.
Number three, obviously, the interest rates, right? Election outcomes can influence monetary policy and interest rates. Historically, significant changes to the rates directly following an election are rare. The Federal Reserve tends to maintain independence and avoids abrupt changes solely based on election results.
Even though we are hoping that the rates do come down after the election.
Yeah.
Number four, market activity. Some buyers and sellers may delay their transactions until after the election. We are seeing this.
Yes.
This can temporarily reduce market activity, but often leads to a surge in transactions once the uncertainty dissipates.
And number five, consumer confidence. This is a big one. Consumer confidence can fluctuate around election time, affecting buying, affecting selling decisions. Historically, a clear election outcome tends to restore confidence and normalize market conditions.
And lastly, housing demand. Southern California's housing demand remains strong due to factors like desirable climate, job opportunities, lifestyle amenities. This demand is typically resilient to short-term political changes. Now that you know a little bit more about the factual component of the election pre and post, we want to talk about some of the actual trends that we've seen by going over a few slides. So we're gonna pop up a slide right now that talks about home prices after the last 8 elections.
So home prices typically, and you can see here, they've gone up. After the last 7 of 8 elections, we've seen home prices go up. As you can see here, the arrows, there was the one time that we saw them go down, and obviously that was in 2008 because it was the mortgage crisis meltdown and everything went down. So
yeah,
everything else, as you can see, the arrows are all pointing up, and then obviously you can see as of late the arrows have really gone up.
Really gone up. And we're gonna obviously share our predictions after we go through these slides. So the second slide that we want to show you guys, home sales, the number of properties that are selling. If you look, we have data here going back to 1978. So there were 2 elections, 1981 and 1989, where we saw home sales decline. Otherwise, the last 9 out of 11 presidential elections, we saw home sales go up. So, what are we dealing with now, and how does this data align with Newport Beach? What do you think is going to happen after this current presidential election?
I honestly think it's kind of the same narrative we've been discussing. It always comes down to supply and demand, and in this case, interest rates are the driving force and factor in the market. So, right now, we've seen inventory continue to grow slowly but surely. Homes are taking a little bit longer to sell, and the market it can be considered a little sluggish or slow. That's because demand is down as well. what's going to happen after the election, I feel that we're going to see a little bit of stimulation. And obviously, like I said, the rates, if they go down, it's going to stimulate sellers to sell and buyers to buy, and we're going to see the market go up.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it hinges on the rates. I think there is a lot of uncertainty out there on the consumer side of things. And so the consumers that are waiting for the election to happen, as we discussed, we're gonna see that surge. If you add on the component of lower interest rates, all the fence sitters are gonna jump off the fence. And to be honest with you, I see more of what we've historically seen in the past. So we want to know, what do you think is going to happen in the Newport Beach market after the election? Are prices and sales going to go up, or are they going to go down? Comment below and let us know your thoughts.